Hi everyone, welcome to my now 9th, I think, update for Project Level Up. This project was created by Sophia Alexandra. I'm going to leave her channel and intro video down below. But what this project is, it consists of a number of levels, and each of these levels has a goal for its completion. So for the level 1 with which you would start, you will have to randomly select a palette and hit pan on one shade in that palette and use each shade in that palette once. After that, you can move on to level 2, during which you will have to hit 2 pans in a different palette and use each shade in that palette twice. And then for the level 3, you will have to do the same, but 3 times for like 3 pans and 3 times of usage, and so on and so forth. I always do such a bad job explaining this project, but I would just recommend you to watch Sophie's video. She does a great job explaining it, obviously, because it's her project. But yeah, I'm actually filming this update like 2 weeks early, but I already have progress to share with you, spoiler, and yeah, let's just get into it. But as always, before I get into the project, I'm just going to remind you yet again that the war in Ukraine is still going on, so if you would like to help, I'm going to list a few organizations that you could donate to if you have the funds for that. So check out the description box. If you do end up donating, thank you so much. It means the world. But yeah, other than that, let's just get into the progress. Okay, so if you guys remember my last update, I actually completed the 5 levels of Project Level Up, and I decided not to go higher to like level 6 and 7 and so on, and just go back to level 1, just because I feel like it's more fun when there's less pans you have to hit. It's just less of a commitment. So I just decided to go back to level 1, as I just said. And the palette that I've rolled in for my second pass for level 1 is Odin's Eye and Annette Giant Wolves. I really like this palette and I really enjoyed using it. And here's what it's looking like today. And to remind you, I had to use each shade in this palette once and hit pan on one. So yeah, here's what we are looking like today. As you can see, I managed to hit pan in one of the shades, which is this one at the bottom here. And I did use each shade in this palette at least one time. So let me just do the thing that I usually do with these updates, which is to swatch out the shades that I used more than intended amount of times and or hit pan on, and we can just talk about each shade in this palette. Alright, so I'm done with the swatching, so let's just talk about the first shade in this palette, which is called Astral. It is that beautiful goldy white shimmer. I've used it 6 times in total, which is actually the most out of all the shades in this palette. And if you remember what I mentioned in my previous update, I said that I would have liked to hit pan on either Astral or Eternal down there. So I was using both of these shades at the same time just to see which one I do end up hitting pan on, and it ended up not being Astral. So once I hit pan on Eternal, I just stopped using Astral, but it's a great shade and I really like it. Here is a swatch of it, by the way, if I didn't show it already. It's very sparkly and bright. But yeah, moving on to the next shade, we have this beautiful olive green metallic called Flare. I've used it just once, so not that much to say about it. Next to it, we have a shade called Antipode. Is that how you pronounce it? It's kind of like a matte counterpart to Flare. It's a very lovely, I don't know, like murky green, if you will. Here is a swatch of it. I've used it twice and I really enjoyed using it. That's that. Moving on to the next shade, it is called Annihilation. I feel like I'm saying it wrong, so if I am, I'm sorry. But yeah, it's just like a black matte. I've used it twice as well. And here is a swatch of it over here. It's a gray pigmented black, but I guess that's all you could say about it. Moving on, we have a shade called Skull. I hope I'm not pronouncing it. Oh my god, I hope I'm not pronouncing it wrong. But it's a very pretty, like, purple to blue duochrome with a pretty deep base. Also very beautiful and sparkly. Yeah, I used it once as well and it looked beautiful. Moving on, we have a shade called Desolate, which is another green but more of a foresty green, I would say. Yeah, also very beautiful. Did I say how many times I used it? I used it once, right? Yep, I used it once and it was great. Moving on, we have another beautiful shadow. It's called Howling. It's kind of like a eggplant matte. I've used it once as well. Great shadow. Moving on, we have a shade called Hati, which is another beautiful shimmer. This one is like kind of purpley with silver sparkle, right? Yeah, silver and blue, I would say. Also very pretty. Also used it once, but it's very lovely. Moving on, we have a shade called Ablaze, which is like a pinky purple matte. I've used it twice, right? Yes, I've used it twice, and here is a swatch of it over here. Very nice, bright color. You honestly kind of can kind of say that I've used it once, because the first time I used it was kind of in a very little, like it was a very little amount of it, just like to highlight some like eyeshadow liner I was doing. So yeah, but I still count it as 2 uses, so either way I've hit my goal on it. So yeah, let's just move on to the last row, where we have a shade Cosmos, which is indigo matte, I would say. Very lovely shadow. It was actually the last one out of all of these that I used, and I used it once. And I did a very pretty look with it. I just put it all over the lid and lower lash line and blended it out with like a taupey gray, and then put a shade, I put a Kimchi Chic highlighter over it. It's in the shade Pearls Gone Wild. And it's kind of similar to, like, if you're familiar, ColourPop Super Shock Shadow in Ice Dream. And it was super beautiful, and yeah, I loved it a lot. Moving on to probably the most exciting shade in this eyeshadow palette, which is the Multichrome, and it's called Eternal. And it is also the one that I've hit pan on. I've used it 5 times, which is actually less than Astral, but this is a pretty different formula compared to all the other shades in this palette. It is very soft and malleable, so It was very easy to hit pan on it. And it's a very pretty shade. Here is a swatch of it there at the bottom. You see it as a pink, but to me it's actually like a green. Yeah, I also saved my like finger swatch of it, which I did which is not going to be very comfortable to show. But here it is. I don't know if that makes you see like this is so awkward. I'm so sorry. Oh my god. I'm really bad at bending my fingers apparently. But yeah, it's a very beautiful shade. And I used it 5 times. And a couple times as a topper. And also I did like a multi-chrome liner look where I did just your regular black eyeliner and then topped this over it. And it was so pretty. It actually looked a lot like this, one of the Cliona jeweled multi-chromes, which is like, oh my god, it's not Smolder, or is it Smolder? It's like the one that you mainly see it as like rosy pink to like grass green. Actually, let me swatch it over the black over here to show you how it looks. Okay, it's over the black. You mostly see it as a pink, but I see it as like a bright green. So yeah, great shadow, absolutely love it. Although my only like gripe with it is because it's so putty and soft, it also creases more than the aforementioned Cliona shades would, but it's still very pretty. And creasing, to me, it's not like the worst thing in the world. But yeah, just wanted to let you know. And finally, the last shade in this palette, which is called Azure. Oh my god, yeah. It's the beautiful blue matte over here. I used it just once, but it's very lovely. I kind of feel bad using it because it has this adorable paw imprinted on it. But yeah, so that's that with this palette. I'm done with my second pass for level 1, however you say that. So now that I've shown you all the shades and I've managed to hit all the goals that I was supposed to, let's just do probably the most exciting part of these updates, which is rolling in our new palette, which is going to be for level 2. Alright, y'all, I have my pretty random map pulled up. My minimum is 1 and my maximum is 107. But before we roll, I'm just going to mention my 2 rules for rolling in a palette. The first one would be if I get a palette which I've already worked on in this project, I'm going to re-roll, just because it's not really that fun for me to work on the same palettes, and I just would like to have more palettes in my collection that have pen in them. So that's that. And the second rule is if I roll in a palette that I currently have in my Pendos eyeshadows, I'm also going to re-roll, just because I feel like it's also not as fun to double dip and just feel like the 2 projects would then kind of clash. But yeah, all this rambling aside, let's just do the most exciting thing, which is rolling in. So our new palette is going to be number 79. Wait, it's actually 1 palette above Giant Wolves, so it might be another palette from this collection, because I have all 3, or maybe not. because I bought this one before the rest. Okay, I'm just gonna go see what it is and show you it if it is eligible to be rolled in. Alright, I'm back with the palette and I'm very excited about it. It's the most perfect palette I could have imagined to be rolled in for this time of season. But without further ado, our level 2, like 1.2 palette is going to be Alien Cosmetics, Unearthly Cosmetics, formerly known as Alien Cosmetics Hauntingly Glamorous palette, which is in collaboration with Sydney Nicole Adams. Like, tell me this is not the most perfect palette for October. So let me just show you how it looks like. Here is the palette. It's very matte heavy, which I'm kind of worried about, considering that this palette is also very big. I've never hit pan on a Unearthly Cosmetics shade, so I don't know how deep they are, but I have a sneaking suspicion that they might be a little deep. They're also very pigmented, so yeah, I might have gotten myself in a bit of a difficult situation here, but it's a very cool palette, so I'm not going to mind working on it. Looking at it now, I honestly have zero thoughts about what I would like to hit pan on, because all these shades are so beautiful. I might try to hit pan on one of the shimmers because they're like perfect inner corner shades. We have this like iridescent pink and an iridescent like teal. So maybe one of those, and maybe one of the shimmers, maybe the red, because I really like to wear red eyeshadow just like as a one shadow look. I think it looks very cool. Yeah, very happy for this, to have this palette in this project, because sadly I haven't used it as much as I would have liked to. I can't remember how long I've had it. I definitely bought it when it released, so I can't remember when it released exactly, but it was definitely last year. So this palette is around 1 year old, and it would have been nice to see some pan in it, which is perfect because it's in this project now. But yeah, I think that is all I'm going to talk about, so let's just wrap up this video. Okay, so very excited for our new palette. I have a sneaking suspicion that I might not have a pan in 2 shades by the next update, but I will try my best. But yeah, I think that is it. So thank you so much for watching, and yeah, take care. Bye.